Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending our webinar. And AI applications SMBs will pay for a practical guide for MSPs. We welcome you all from all over the country. And my name is Ted Dacko, and I'm going to serve as your host today. By way of just as a side note, I am also a customer, one of the first customers of Nefer Data, and responsible for at least one of the applications you're going to see today. No, I didn't build it, but I recommended it. A couple of housekeeping items. You are all in listen-only mode. If you have a question, and we encourage them, please type them into the chat section in the lower right-hand side. We'll try to get to all the questions at the end of the webinar, and if we don't, we'll get back to you individually. The slides for this presentation, as well as a recording, will be sent to you by Friday. We'll do our best to get that done as quickly as possible. And if you're interested in anything that you hear today, we would be happy to follow up with you individually. Our agenda today is I'm going to do some introductions of our two guest speakers. Then we're going to talk about the strengths and use cases of AI for SMBs, and then a couple of practical AI applications that SMBs are currently using today. We'll talk about the age of bespoke and affordable software to handle this. And then we're going to do a fireside chat with Paul LaFlame, who's the president and CEO of Centrend, based in Western Massachusetts. And then we will do questions and answers. By way of introduction, our guest speakers, our primary speaker will be Camille Littman. Camille has decades of IT and software experience, and he has been building AI applications since day one. And he's now helping MSPs move from IT support to a strategic partnership with their customers using AI-powered services. Not to diminish Camille's portion of the webinar, but you will be really interested in Paul LaFlame, who is the president and CEO of Centrend. And Centrend is based in Western Massachusetts, in Sturbridge. He has customers all over the New England area, and he helps them eliminate IT frustrations using lean tech. He has 20 years of experience finding the right fit IT strategy, a front row view of how smart tech adoption drives real profitability. And he is actually implementing AI solutions for his customers right now. And he's going to talk to you about that. So let's get started. Sit back and enjoy. And Camille, please talk to us, begin by talking about AI strengths and use cases.
Awesome. Thank you, Ted, for the introduction. And I gotta admit, I too can't wait for the poll version of this webinar. So we'll try to get through this content as efficiently as we can. Before we start talking about the applications that your customers, the SMBs, might be interested in, we thought it might make sense to take a step back and talk about AI first. So AI, even though it's been all the news all the time recently, it's actually a concept that's pretty old. It dates back all the way to 50s. And if you've been around, you've probably experienced some of those up and downs that the AI has been through, some of the AI springs and AI winters. Actually, if you look at some of the memorable events, the Deep Blue defeating Kasparov, that was almost 30 years ago. Even the IBM Watson Jeopardy win, that was 15 years ago, right? So you may be sitting here and thinking to yourselves, like, hey, we've seen this play already, right? AI was supposed to be this amazing thing so many times in the past. So how is this different? Well, let's actually try to understand that. So first, let's take a look at how large language models and generative AI, so this is this new wave of AI, how they actually operate. This slide provides a very simplified summary of their inner working. So at the high level, large language models tend to tokenize every word into a mathematical numerical representation. Then they try to understand how all of the words are related to each other in sentences and what have you. And that attention, which is called attention, which is an important piece, that was the breakthrough from Google that really enabled this new era. And then that attention transformation is applied across magnitude of layers. Some layers are surface very simple patterns, others focus on grammar and structures, others on meaning, and some others do abstract reasoning. So once you apply all of that, you can then start doing predictions. Once you look at a specific word and its token representation, the model can guess, can predict what is the next most likely word. And this is really that last sentence is the secret of large language models. What large language models are is they're prediction machines, and they predict one thing. They predict what word is the most likely given the current context. So if you think about it that way, it sounds almost simple, right? It's like, so what's the big deal? Like, why is this such a something that's threatening everybody's jobs? Like, how is that really different? Well, the main difference about this new wave is that first of all, it's general purpose. So in the past, every model had to be purpose built, purpose trained, and even if you build that amazing model that could build Kasparov, could win versus Kasparov in chess, that model couldn't do your taxes, or that model couldn't win on Jeopardy. For every particular use case, you had to retrain the model from scratch, and that was very expensive and very narrow. Well, large language models are different because they are based on natural language, which is the ultimate medium for knowledge. They're actually very transferable. So with the same model, you can get information about taxes, you can extract information from your invoices, and you can get advice on how to coach your weekend soccer team. So the one model can serve many purposes. Another thing that is wonderful about this new wave is that the strengths and capabilities of those models are very complementary to the pre-existing strengths and skills of our traditional software. So those large language models are good with dealing with unstructured data and non-deterministic workflows. They're not good with many other things, but those things that they're good at, our traditional software was never good in. So very additive from that perspective. And last but not least, large language models can be extended quite easily with tools and skills. So that allows us to merge them with the traditional software and thus therefore accomplish great things. So in my personal opinion, this wave is different. This is not another AI spring that will be followed by AI winter. This is for the first time, AI is actually accessible to all of us, not just to the ones that can hire an army of machine learning experts. Having said that, I do not believe that AI is great for everything. There's still things that are better solved by other technologies. But so let's look at some of the things that AI is good at and not so good at. So starting on the left-hand side here, not so good at, it is worth reminding us all that AI can lead to hallucinations. So just let's remember, it's a machine that is trained to predict the next most likely word. Doesn't mean that it has the knowledge. It is just really good at answering with the right words given the context. So it will confidently lie to you if it doesn't have the information. It is a prognostic or probabilistic machine, so some of the answers might be inconsistent. If you ask the same question multiple times, you will likely get a slightly different answer. Even if I tried to repeat the sentence I just said 3 times, I probably every single time I would say it a little bit differently. So that's just the nature of the language aspect of that. Models can also be lazy, especially give it complicated chained tasks. This is because they're trying to optimize for how many tokens they consume when performing a task. So if they see a way to give you an answer that sounds like the right answer without having to go through all the steps, they might do it as well. So we do want to check the results. And last but not least, the model should be trusted for math problems. That's not just the natural strengths of those. Now, I don't want to be all doom and gloom because definitely I'm an optimist and I do believe that large language models are an amazing breakthrough. There are, as mentioned before, great and many things that in the past we were not able to handle with traditional processing. Those things include text synthesis and aggregation and summaries. Those are things that were very hard to do in the past. It's parsing unstructured and irregularly structured data, which, let's be honest, vast majority of business data is that. And so that those are amazing new skills. They're also good at analytical tasks as long as you contain them and provide them with the right context. And last but not least, they can actually generate lots of very high quality code, which can help to work around some of the other limitations. So in summary, there are good and bad use cases. So when you're thinking about UI, you should always keep those in mind and be aware as you're building the solutions to accommodate for some of the best practices that we have listed on the bottom. But let's move on to what you're really all here for. So let's talk about those practical AI applications for SMBs. And SMBs are waiting for those applications. If you look at some of the global statistics, SMBs represent more than half of US GDP and more than half of the jobs in the private sector. So it's a huge industry. It's a huge sector. But on the other hand, they're only accountable for just over a third of the software purchase. And so most software is bought by enterprises. And it's not because SMBs don't know that software and technology can accelerate their businesses. On the contrary, 64% of them know that they can gain productivity, but in the past it was just not accessible because software was always created for large enterprises. But now AI changes this, and your SMB customers know that. They understand that they should want AI and that they will need it. They will find a partner that will help them to understand how it applies to them, what is real and what is not. And this is your chance to be their intelligence provider. So don't sleep on that. In our presentation, we're going to focus on 6 of the areas that we've seen some of our customers and our partners implement for SMBs. I'm not going to go through them here, but we'll cover them one by one. So let's start with order processing. Let's first think about how order processing looks like at the average SMB these days. So you're probably getting orders submitted through different channels. Text, it might be emails, it might be phone calls, and it might be even paper based. Oftentimes, the information that you require to actually book an order might be incomplete. So there's some follow-ups that are required. You probably need to type some of that stuff in using manual data entry, which takes time and can be error prone. And I'm going to guess that some of the SMBs or some of the customers that you have might be in business or might be in industries when there's still legacy software, the blue screen ERPs and what have you, where that data entry process is very difficult, error prone, and it's hard to automate it. Right. So this is where we find ourselves. So is this a good use case for AI? Absolutely yes. And let's think about why. So first and foremost, we said that AI is great at dealing with unstructured data and extracting clean and standardized data from that. So that's one great fit for this use case. The other fit is that most of the time, actually, the path of processing on order is pretty well defined, minus the exception use cases, and you could explain it to well-intended intern, as AI is often described, in some simple words. And then last but not least, there's a lot of data that you can ground AI in, such as catalogs, SKUs, past orders, to help prevent hallucinations. So if executed well, you can imagine a situation, if you think about the art of the possible, where you have an agent that is responsible for intake from different formats, then another one that extracts the data from the submitted orders, yet another one that pulls the data from historical orders and validates whether we have everything needed. And if that's the case, if that's not the case, then it can automatically communicate with the customer or with the seller and figure out the information that's missing. And then finally, boops the orders in your ERP system. All of that is actually possible in the age of AI. Now, would I recommend that you start by thinking how to get to the art of possible in your first project? Absolutely not. So for all of the areas that we'll cover, we're going to talk about this crawl, walk, run approach that we're calling here assist, automate, and agentic. In the assist phase, this is where we encourage you to educate your customers on how to use the tools that are easily accessible to them. This is using ChatGPT, this is using Copilot, this is using GEMS and Gemini and or whatever is the right tool for them. There are certain things that they can, with a little guidance from you as their technology partners, they can start doing now. But the second step, automate, we're going to automate portions of the process that are maybe most problematic today. And then only eventually you want to start migrating to those fully agentic solutions where I apologize. This was not an AI malfunction. This was a Wi-Fi malfunction. So going back to this. So I was talking about how you can help your customers start using AI to accelerate the order processing. Um, I think hopefully you've heard me talk about some of the assist capabilities. Then starting to move on into the automate phase, this is where you can start creating workflows that monitor inboxes for new order emails, extract attachment, pulling that data, maybe matching it to some of the pre-exist or past orders and customer profiles, and also identify changes in terms of and conditions from across different orders. Right, so those are things that are much easier to implement now than ever. In the agentic phase, you could have agents, as we were talking about on the previous slide, that automatically request missing information from the customers. They recognize when something is not there, and they ask for follow-ups. You could also match the extracted data with your product catalogs and SKUs, and then eventually push clean, well-formatted data into your order system, avoiding all of those manual hands-off that we were talking about. So lots of great opportunity in this space. All right, I'll keep on going. The second area that we wanted to talk about is customer support. Similarly here, there's lots of channels where customers can reach out to you and ask for help. Sometimes, though, it's not only customers that are using that. You may have vendors using those channels, and it's oftentimes hard to know which interactions truly matter, which interactions can impact your customers' experience. There's also no single source of truth for the context. So creating responses and having the history of every exchange that happened in the past is challenging. People need to do lots of manual lookups, and oftentimes that results in challenges in the communication. And honestly, bad experiences may impact your retention numbers, may impact how you work with the customer. So this is a challenging area, but yet again, this is another area where AI is actually good at, because first and foremost, this is all conversation based. This is all language based. So very naturally aligned to skills of AI and understanding speech and providing responses. Also, I don't know if how many of you had a chance to experience some of the more modern ways that AI can respond both in text and in voice, but those are very different than some of those robotic answers that we might be used to from chatbots and voice recognition tools that were robotic. These days you can get like into a real conversation that feels natural, and it's sometimes hard to tell that you're not talking to a human. And then last but not least, we talked about the skills and tools that you can equip LLM. Here too, you can pull historical tickets and ground the large language model in data that will prevent hallucinations and what have you. Now, in terms of how to help your customers to AI power customer success, the simplest way to start is just turn the response suggestions in the email client. Right? That can save you a ton of time alone, and not a lot of people are probably doing that yet. It really is that simple as that, helping people do that. You can also use GPTs of all sorts, co-pilots, to summarize the history of conversations. And another great idea is to upload all of your knowledge articles into Copilot, or maybe create a custom GPT or a standard gem, and then have your customer support people just use that instead of having to find the right documents. It can really accelerate them with a very simple solution. Now, as you're graduating into the automate phase, you can start exposing, not just internally, but even to the outside world, chatbots, not only chatbots that just answer data, but maybe have multiple skills and are connected to your data and your systems and actually can start taking actions. Those these days can also be made voice enabled, and so that people can, again, interact with multiple channels. And lastly, you can also automate some of your internal incident resolution processes. Now, in the agentic future, you really can imagine a situation when a lot of the experience is unified, right? So today, people need to know how to engage, which channels to go. But what if they didn't have to have that knowledge, but the AI robot could help to navigate their requests to the right path without having to be explicit about where you're going. It also, the agentic can resolve some of the issues without humans ever getting involved, either by pointing to the right document or maybe taking some actions that are well-defined and contained. And last but not least, in the agentic world, you can start becoming more proactive. Maybe you don't have to wait for a customer to call you about issues, but know that an issue is happening and notify them before that. Like, how amazing of an experience is that? So lots of opportunity in this space as well. The next area we wanted to talk about is task management or internal project management. So this is how work gets done within any company, and this probably applies even to a lot of how work gets done in your own businesses as well, right? Think about how task gets assigned. So oftentimes it happens in meetings, emails, maybe some phone calls, conversations. When you, hey Joe, could you take care of that? And one of the challenges with that is that the ownership is not explicit but implicit. So person might have not understood that they are actually required to do something. There's not a holistic view of all the work that's happening, which all impacts prioritization. And then reporting on the progress is not fun. Like who here gets excited when you have to prepare a status report? That's not anything any one of us wants to do, and that's not something that on its own adds real value to the business. But if you don't do those things well internally, that can trigger down or go all the way down to your customers, right? So it can impact how stuff gets done. And this is yet another case where AI is a great solution, because first and foremost, it doesn't get bored with the tasks that we get bored. So if you create an agent that whose job is to monitor different assignments and assign them and plan them, it will consistently do its job, versus it's not something that we as humans are really good at. It is good at understanding context, as we discussed, and because of this attention aspect to it, what things mean in the context of all the information around it. So it actually is able to piece together that when you said, Joe, I need you to, that it's actual task assignment, and clear it up. And on top of it, it can also parse all those different signals to actually collect status reports without somebody having to explicitly mention that, right? So if the task was to follow up with a customer, AI could see if there was an email sent to a customer, if there was a text message sent to a customer, right? So it can extract that information without implicit connection. How to help your customers on this journey? One of the simplest thing is start transcribing meetings and using AI to generate action items. More and more of your customers will have some basic AI capabilities enabled for their Google accounts or Microsoft 365 accounts, and those features can be very helpful in those initial steps. You can also use Copilot and similar tools to review your inbox and create daily follow-ups of the things that you should take action on, or the customer should take action on. And then many of those tools also offer research mode or reasoning models that can do can move more deeper thinking, deeper analysis of the provided material, and generate status reports so that the customers or their employees don't have to do the stuff that they're probably not excited about. As we're moving into the automation phase, you can start using AI to monitor inboxes, chats, project management tools, and just identify all of those tasks automatically. And you can also make the execution of them simpler by pooling know-how from similar work from the past. Maybe suggest how a specific task can be carried out, or pool all the information that may be needed for the task. And you can also automatically request for updates and flag any delays. All of that can be done by an agent so that nobody forgets. In the agentic space, you can start proactively assigning work to people that are best suited for it without explicit information. You can also stop asking people to provide updates, because AI can just find, as we discussed, we can find proof or trace that the actions were taken. And last but not least, you can start using it to proactively identify problems before they even occur. All right. Our next use case is around finance management. Also a very common thing in most SMBs. Most SMBs like to get paid, which means that they need to issue invoices, or they have customers as well that are suppliers that issue them invoices. So you oftentimes need to track all the invoices or payments that you received, and those, just like in some of the previous cases that we discussed, they can come through different channels. They also come in different formats. And you oftentimes have to match those invoices and payments to other records in your system. Make sure that the invoices received are matched to a PO and specific line items, and that can be consuming and error prone. Oftentimes they're here too. We have to deal with follow-ups, with vendors asking, what is the status of my payment? Or with customers saying like, hey, I'm not going to be able to pay you until you send me this delivery note that I haven't received, right? And missing those can impact the cash flow of your business or the cash flow of your customer's business. And yet again, in this space, oftentimes we deal with a lot of legacy systems that just is not easy to automate a lot of this stuff if the ERP that your customers are using is an older one that doesn't have a lot of modern digital features. And just like in previous cases, this is a fantastic case. Might be one of my favorite actually for AI automation, because many of the tasks described here, even if they sound complex, they can be explained with relatively simple rules and performed by this well-meaning intern, which is a term that's often used as a kind of like a litmus test for the tasks that an AI assistant might be able to handle. If you would be able to explain it to a well-meaning intern, chances are that the AI will be able to do it as well. AI excels at extracting data from various formats and different types of invoices and other documents. So that's another strength. And then here again, there's a lot of historical data or reference information like POs, contracts, and historical records that allow you to ground the responses to avoid the hallucinations. As we move on to your path towards fully agentic, let's start with the simple ideas. So here also you could have a prompt that helps to extract information in a standard format from invoices, from emails and attachments. You can use GPTs or gems to highlight the items that require attention, that require response, so that you don't get stuck waiting for, or your customers are not waiting for you to provide information before you paid. You can also create some reasoning agents or reasoning models that can compare your financial information, just provide you a quick overview, quick snapshot. What changed? Right? Here's two reports from for the last 2 months. What is the main drivers? Even the basic foundational models should be able to do a pretty good job at that. Now, as you start going into the automation phase, one of the ideas, very similar to some of the previous ones, is starting monitoring inboxes and portals for new invoices and payments. You can start matching POs and contracts and other system records to the invoices that you receive. And on the customer support side, just like we talked previously, you can have a chatbot and voice agent that helps to answer some of those questions that might be coming. Once we move into the agentic, we can start having the process more even automated to farther degree when human interventions are less and less required. You can have agent request the missing information without the human ever getting involved. And you can start pushing the updates all the way to your ERP systems by doing all the checks in parallel. The next area we're going to talk about is lead generation. So getting leads always starts with your online presence or with your presence in general, and that is hard to maintain and keep consistent. You have to synchronize the information across many channels and make sure that it actually matches to your CRM records. When you're looking for new prospects, there's a lot of tools that you could be using and paying for, and all of them need to be orchestrated together. All of them, then finally, once you convert a prospect from a marketing prospect to a sales prospect, and you're getting ready to talk to them, preparing for those meetings, those early conversations, super important. So this fragmented nature of the process and fragmented nature of the information within it makes it difficult to do it really well. And this is, yet again, another great use case for AI. One of the cool features of large language models and an AI that we haven't talked about is actually that they've unlocked web search. And many of you maybe still remember that Google used to have a strong grip on search and was very protective of it. It was not easy to just programmatically search for information on the web. Well, now it actually isn't. So you can find information about your prospects using LLMs quite easily. LLMs are also great at generating content, so you should absolutely look into them to start generating both content for your site, but also maybe recommended for your customers. And then last but not least, LLMs can be very good at finding information across distributed data sources like web, socials, different documents, and stitch them together into some meaningful information. So if we look at the path towards agentic here, again, we can start with some very simple ideas like generating outbound message and content with AI prompts. This is another thing that if your customers are not doing today, you should advise them to start doing that right away, right? I'm not saying to replace their writing and their style with AI, but augment that, help you be more efficient, help them be more efficient at it, and do more with the same amount of time. AI can also help to summarize the research that when you're preparing for customer meetings or where your customers are preparing for their customer meetings across website, LinkedIn, and some other nodes, just so that it's easier to be ready for those. And then on in the middle side, you can, just like we were talking about chatbots for customer support, you also can have chatbots that start capturing the leads of people that are visiting your website or the website of your customers. You can use AI to discover and qualify prospects based on your very specific targets. This is because of those strengths in web search that I was talking about. You can also automate the collection process of information if you want to make sure that the data that you're processing when you're preparing for the conversation with the customer is trustworthy. You can use AI to collect that and summarize it into meaningful report. And on the agentic side, as you keep progressing in your journey, you can start making your outreach more and more personalized based on specific context for different customers. You can also start intelligently matching the signals from all the different interactions that customers have to their key account information and learn from interactions to improve the targeting and messaging. And then the last area that we're going to cover is around document reviews. So all of us have to deal with legal documents, which are full of jargon, new and oftentimes nuanced and hard to interpret, right? And very few of us have in-house counseling. And even if we do, it's very expensive. And deciding when to seek outside counseling, external expertise is not easy too. Even if you're not dealing with legal things, then oftentimes there's grant policies that you have to be accountable, maybe some taxes, and that is complicated too, and oftentimes because of that, neglected. And manual reviews, they take a lot of time. So this is yet another case where AI can really help because AI, all those foundational models are trained on diversified data sets and can help to understand the very specific domain-specific jargon. Like these days, when I need to fill out some tax forms online, I almost always go to some sort of a chat agent that helps me to navigate the complexity and explain words that might be English but doesn't sound like it. It can also help you to identify the differences between various documents, how things change, that would be easy to overlook if you were just reading it as a human, because our attention span isn't as strong. And it can also leverage patterns and insights from other people's and examples, because it was trained on the whole knowledge of the industry. So for the sake of time, I'm gonna quickly skip this because this is the last area that we wanted to talk about, and a lot of the ideas will probably start getting repetitive. But I wanted to spend the next couple of minutes talking about how you can launch your AI offering. And so hopefully with this webinar and the materials that you're going to get after it, you will get a nice idea of some of the use cases that are possible. So what do we recommend next? We recommend that you see how you can apply this to your customers. So first and foremost, try to understand the industries that your customers operate in. And AI can probably help you to investigate them further. Maybe also learn or study news about what use cases are being adopted in those industries. And this is another place where AI can help you. And then last but not least, we also recommend trying to quantify some of the information that you already have about your customers within your PSA or RMM system that can give you insights about their specific situation, the type of tool they're using, types of problems they're facing. You actually have a a lot of information about them. So once you have those two pieces, when you have ideas about the use cases that might be good use cases for the customers that or for specific industries, and when you have data and tool ideas, this is the time to just have those conversations with your customers. This is one of the things that we recommend. Start having those conversations with your customers about how AI could be applicable to them, to their specific industry. One thing or a couple of things where we can help from Nefer data. Let me quickly play this video. Um, all right, we actually have an application that is called Path to AI that can help to prepare you for those conversations. So you can see an example of a corporation where you can just type in their email, or sorry, their website address, and our tool will automatically learn about what the company does, what is the industry that they operate in. It will automatically research some of the common use cases within those industry, and others have successfully applied AI. It will also analyze, if you connect to it, your RRM tickets or PSA tickets to get a better sense for the type of situations that the customers are dealing with. And it will finally propose some tailored recommendations for that customer. So it is something that you're able to actually already leverage. It did come in February, and you'll be able to leverage to prepare yourself for the conversations with the customers. Let me go to the next slide. At Nefer Data, we also offer a suite of pre-built applications that fit perfectly into that middle column, into that automation column. If you're ready to go past simple chat GPT solutions and you want things that your customers can start using to automate some of the process that we talked about, at Nefer Data, we offer a suite of pre-built applications that tailor to a lot of those use cases that we covered. Those are things that you can drop in almost on day one and start helping your customers to experience AI and get real value from AI without long projects. And then if you're ready for the agentic phase and you want to start building things that are really tailored to the customers and really take it to the next level when it comes to automation and removing human touches from key processes, with Nefer Data, you can also build bespoke solutions either through our no-code builder or using our API suite. And all of this stuff we can help developing, or you can build yourself, and the stuff that is built on the Nefer Data platform can be white labeled and resold to as many customers as you choose to. Okay, I'm going to skip. Actually, I'll mention quickly the slide for the sake of time. We all want to get to our conversation with Paul, so I'll be very selective in the next couple of slides, but I did want to share this story. This is a story from one of the customers that we worked with in the past, who's a small business in Michigan. When they initially approached us, they didn't really know where AI fits into their company, and started with a simple idea of processing invoices. But once we started doing that, a light bulb came off for them. And it's like, oh, now we see all of those other areas where AI could be very beneficial. And this is what you want to get to with a lot of your customers. Start simple, start small, but the moment the light bulb clicks, you will be a hero. You will be the one that transformed their business from running the old school way to being a modern AI-powered business. I'm going to skip this section and quickly talk about what I would recommend as the next step. So first and foremost, as we talked about, a lot of the opportunities in the assist space, if you remember those free crawl, walk, run spaces, those really do not require large investment from your side. You can start offering those services pretty easily. Actually, before I go there, I would also mention that one thing that we would recommend is for you to host a webinar or some sort of workshop for your customers. And we're actually, for everybody that's here today, we have this unique offer that we will be happy to partner with you in preparing such webinar for your customers. So we're for everybody that's in this call, and we'll schedule a connect with one of our AI experts. We're offering a free white label AI use case webinar for your customers. Unique offer for everybody here. Now, after that, we also recommend that, as I started saying, that you start investing in some of those assist capabilities, or start helping your customer to start leveraging some of those assist capabilities. And then when you're ready, find just one customer. who is willing to embrace the automation and or that agentic space. The first project really builds momentum. It helps you to establish credibility to scale. If you take that first step, you will see how things will start adding up and compounding. Because this is really the time to become the managed intelligence provider. This is where the industry is moving. And just like it was the case with cybersecurity, when many MSPs embraced cyber and moved to that MSSP acronym. And we believe that those that will embrace AI will become the next wave of managed intelligence providers. And with that, I took up a little bit more time than I was intending, but we still have lots of time to have a conversation with Paul. So, Paul, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here. I was very excited that you agreed to join us because you've been through a lot of this journey, right? And not so long ago for you, AI was just an idea. It wasn't part of your offering. Could you tell us, like, how did you start? Like, what were some of the first steps that you've taken to even start making AI real at your MSP?
Sure. Well, thanks, Camille, for having me. I'm honored to be here and getting a chance to talk to you all about this and our journey. I would say that I've been using ChatGPT and Gemini tools for years. They're interesting and they're fun and it's cool, right? To see what kind of response you can get. It wasn't until the last 6 or 8 months that I realized that learning how to prompt is really just the tip of the iceberg of what businesses need to do. We need to be training AI to think and respond the way we and our people are trained to respond, right? So I decided I wanted to train AI and teach businesses how to train AI. And I registered in the beginning of the year, I registered Centren.ai as a new domain name so that right now it points to my main website, but I do plan on spinning that off into its own site this year and vastly expanding our offerings to customers in our partnership with Nefer Data and other independent things that we're going to do to train others how to create their own gems in Gemini, for example. Um, my focus here then is not on the AI technology, but the consulting services around it. Just like my MSP sells hardware, right? We sell hardware and that's all well and good, but our real bread and butter is in our consulting services. Anybody can buy the hardware and connect the dots. The magic comes when you can understand the business need and you can make AI work for, in this case, AI work for them. And that's what it means to me to be able to be successful in AI, to understand their business and have it augment the MSP services I'm already providing. So in order to establish credibility, I wanted to get started by having my own AI implementation beyond just prompting and customized gems.
Right.
So we implemented the chatbot on our website. And I don't like chatbots. Let me just start with that. Right. Anytime you interact with one, they either try to pretend they're a person or they give bad answers. You had a slide up that I think you really nailed that. So I won't belabor the point, but there's a lot of issues with most of the chatbots out there that you can possibly use. And I didn't want that for my company. So when I implemented yours, I found that it was highly customizable and trainable. And that was really my first AI implementation. The AI chatbot launched within just a couple weeks of us connecting, Camille, and I appreciate that. Um,
I think, Paul,
right
you've
now,
got a lot of the things that we always talk about, right? So we highly always recommend just get the .ai domain. So it's fantastic. That's one of the first things that you did. It's we always recommend start internally with some of them, and that chatbot use case, that modern chatbot use case is a great one. And I love the how you talked about how this isn't about AI as technology, but this is about growing your business. And AI is just a
mm,
tool or maybe even an excuse for that. I think that's exactly the right mindset. I also know I've heard from sources that this mindset has led you to your first AI project for like actual customers, not just internally, but for the customers. Would you mind telling us a little bit about that?
yeah, that's exactly right. I was at a customer. They've been a customer for quite some time, so I already had a good relationship with them. I was talking to the controller just casually about just what they're doing, what's going on in their world, and they were thinking of hiring an AI excuse me, an AR clerk, an AP clerk to process some of the cash receipts and vendor invoices that come in. And I said, well, what if I could get AI to do about 95% or more of the work for you? And he said, my goodness, if you could do that, I'd save 5 to 7 hours a week. So with that behind me and that challenge, well, I'm proud to say we're probably just a couple weeks away from being able to launch this. I know it's going to blow them away because they don't even think I can really do it. They think about OCR, optical character recognition, and that AI is just kind of a glamorized version of that. But what they don't understand is that when AI doesn't understand something, it's not just going to take its best shot, it's going to interact with them. Right. And it's going to try to figure out the answer and it's going to ask them for input and say, hey, I'm having trouble with this, kind of like your well-meaning intern example
Right.
you gave earlier, Camille.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that's great. And it's fantastic once again that you're able so clearly to tie it to the benefits, right? Because AI shouldn't be AI for the sake of doing AI, but it's actually helping them to eliminate manual work, maybe even helping them to prevent an extra head that they need to hire. How huge is that for their bottom line?
And a head that doesn't make errors, right?
All
I mean,
right.
if something wrong, sure, you can train them and it won't do that again. And everybody makes mistakes, but once AI is trained, it's going to do the same thing consistently. That's why computers are computers, right?
Yeah,
And
100%.
people are,
Yeah, and I also think that like this customer will probably look at you very differently, right? Not only as a technology provider, but like as a strategic partner. Have you seen that trickle to some of the other customers as well when you're having conversations with them? Are you starting to get into more strategic position? Are they asking about AI? Like how are the overall interactions with your customers?
you know, if they don't bring it up, I bring it up, and I constantly look for ways that we can use AI internally and with the customers. It's a mindset shift that has to happen. It makes the conversations natural and not forced. I'm getting them to start considering on their own, where can we use AI? Or in the case of the example I gave about the application I'm about to launch with them, they're going to be asking themselves, where else can we be using AI?
Right.
Cost to be efficient, not necessarily reduce headcount, but to make more effective use of headcount. Do you think the controller wants to key AR and AP? No, that's why he's going to hire an intern unless until I brought up AI to him.
Yeah. No,
Yep.
that's fantastic. That's such a great. This is that moment that I was talking about earlier. That if you accomplish it with your customers, when it just clicks and you can almost see that light bulb pop up above their head, and now they start seeing areas where AI could be applied. That's one of the most satisfying moments you can get, and I wish you many of those as you're on your
They
journey. I did.
they have to
Right,
understand that it's beyond prompting well, right? That this is
100%.
way what we're talking about, the conversation we're having with them is way beyond anything they probably even realized was possible.
100%. Yeah, but so speaking of like way beyond what people think what's possible, if we apply this to you, what in your journey with AI, what have you learned about AI that's maybe different than what you were expecting?
Training is where it's at. You know,
Mm,
eh, everywhere it's always about, oh, well, here's a great strategy for prompting. And there's this core prompting concept, which is an acronym for something. And, there's all these different models and they help. But when you start to train AI, that's where
mm,
the real power and the return on investment comes in. When you can train AI to respond to your email and sound like you and
right.
use the colloquialisms that you use, that's when it's really valuable to me and to my customers.
Yeah, 100%. You're fully right. Both from like sounding like you, but also from avoiding the mistakes, right? And
Right.
grounding it in the data that your source of truth that we always talk about.
Yeah. Yep.
That's fantastic. Okay, I do want to ask you one important question. Hopefully, you're willing to share with some of your peers in the industry. For those MSPs that are maybe on the outside looking in, not sure if they should be doing AI, right? Because that's not traditionally what MSPs are doing. What's your advice, whether they should do it or not? And if so, how to get started?
That's a great question, and I think it comes back to what I said earlier that I don't want to start an AI business inside my MSP. I want
Right.
my AI business to be part of my MSP, right? And that's a mindset difference. The difference in marketing and positioning and in mindset because when you're consulting as an MSP, you're finding solutions to meet the customer's needs with technology. Well, AI is another technology in our MSP belt. It isn't this amorphous, crazy thing that no one really understands or knows how to make money with. This is something very real and very usable. And the best way to get started, in my experience, is to use it internally. Creating that chatbot and proving to myself and to others that the chatbot can actually be an effective tool if it's AI based and you can program it in natural language.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Great insights. Now, before we wrap it up, I do have to ask a question about lessons learned, right? What would be a fireside side chat without lessons learned? So, as we look back on your AI journey so far, what are some of the things that you've learned? What are the things that you maybe would have done differently, and waited longer? I guess maybe, probably not, right? So, but what are some of the things that you learned?
Well, hindsight's always 2020, right? So if I had to do it again, what would I do differently? I certainly wouldn't start any later. I wished I had realized sooner how important training is and how I should have been focusing on that more the whole time. I would have gotten to where I am now a lot sooner. And I think the big thing is to just get started. Start using it. Start using it beyond going out to Chat GPT or Gemini and asking some fun questions about, where should I have dinner this weekend in this neighborhood I'm
Right.
not familiar with and I like Italian food. Something beyond that, something much more meaningful. Having it understand your knowledge base so that you can ask business advice consistent to your business or in concert with your own materials. That's uh that's what I wish I had started on way sooner. I'd be even further ahead. But that said, there's no time like the present. You just got to do it. Like Nike says, just do it.
Wonderful. Yeah, I love that. No time like the present. Actually, Paul, so I think those are all the questions I had for you. But if you're okay to stick around, we do have a couple more minutes for the questions from the audience. And if you want to jump in for any of them, please do. Ted, with that, I'll
Absolutely.
turn it over to you. Do you have any questions from the audience?
We have a couple of private messages that came in, but before we do that, Nate reminded us that to ask a question, you can use the QA button at the bottom rather than the chat function. And I think, Camille, you started with talking about AI going back to the 50s. And one participant wanted to remind you about Alan Turing, who might be a little bit before that, but I just wanted to pass that along as well. But that's all right. Some of the private questions. I think you covered this, Camille, but let me just ask again. The applications that you talked about, those weren't theoretical. Those are actually applications that are being used by SMBs today, correct?
That is 100% correct. All of the pre-built applications that I've mentioned, you can find more details on our website, by the way. Those are real applications, and that list, by the way, is growing. So when we partner with companies like Pulse, oftentimes that results in new capabilities that others can have out of the box.
Okay, first private question that came in. You outlined pretty clearly a path from assist to automate to agentic. Where do you see MSPs getting stuck most often, and what's usually the root cause of that?
Paul, I'd love to hear your point on that as well. But from my perspective, I typically see two places. So one is just making the first step. Oftentimes the MSPs question is this really what we should be doing? Are we the AI advisor? Can somebody else do it? But honestly, in my personal opinion, if you don't do it, you're going to be replaced by somebody that does, and eventually they will eat all of the rest of your lunch. So this is one place, just getting started, and the second place that we didn't have a lot of time to talk about today is moving from those simple gems and custom GPTs to that next level, to driving automation and agentic. I sometimes refer to it as AI theater, that people have, like I have an advisory service and they help you deploy the free M365 and Copilot, and therefore I have an AI offering. That sounds like great progress, but doesn't get your customers fully to the promised land. It
Right.
feels, it sometimes can be an illusion of progress. So I do see people getting stuck on that too.
Yeah,
Paul,
I,
I'll
I
turn it
think
to
it
you.
yeah, I think it's the automate phase at a minimum.
Mm,
It's
yeah,
really where you start to see return. But that said, I think it has to be on a case by case basis. Like I know
yes,
opportunities that I'm working right now that just by teaching them how to program a GPT or a gem is going to really help them initially. And it's going to turn on a light bulb. My expectation is they're going to be, all right, they're not going to say, how do I get to agentic? They don't understand even what that means.
right.
That's for us to know, right? And
Yeah,
for us to implement for them. But what they're going to say is, well, how can I just make it do the whole thing? That to me is they're looking for at least automate and probably agentic. Because once you can automate, it's not that much far of a stretch to get to agentic. It really isn't. It's just how confident is the result of the automation? And if the answer is it's 80% confident, well, what do we need to do agentically? Do we need to go ask Camille for this piece of information? Right.
right.
And then when that comes back, ingest that back into the process and remember where it was and finish the cycle. It should be about ROI. What do we need to do to get an ROI and how dramatic of an impact will that make?
Love it. That's a better answer than my Paul. So I'm so happy that you're here.
All right, Camille, question number two. Look, we're busy, and an MSP only has time to go after one of these six areas. Which would you recommend to go after first, and which ones would you avoid?
Paul, do you want to take this one first, or?
I think it's where's the return going to be? You know, do you have a use case? Do you have a case for I'm not sure if that question was asked in the context of their internal use as an MSP, or if the question was asked about how do we get started with a customer. But I'm going to
I
take
think it was from a customer perspective, Paul.
from a
That's the way I
customer.
interpret it. Yeah.
Okay, sure. So from a customer perspective, my first answer stands then. It's going to be about where's that ROI? What in your industry that you're servicing in question, where where can you return them some savings in terms of time, efficiency, improve their customer service? It's not only about saving money and time, right? To me, it's also about delivering a better product or service or standard or excellence in your organization.
So, Paul, this next question relates right to that. They said SMBs are very cost sensitive, aren't we all? How do you actually quantify ROI early enough to get buy-in before you do a full deployment?
Well, the example that I said earlier, right, in my first question that Camille asked, or one of the first questions, how am I using it? What's my first big project with a customer? 5 to 7 hours of time is what they're spending. So that's my cost, right? That's my cost basis. If I
Forever.
can be and the opportunity cost of the 5 to 7 hours. So if it's the controller doing the work of
Right.
keying invoices. Are you kidding me? Of matching receivables? That's a waste of time and money for him. So it's the opportunity cost of him having to do that versus spending time looking at the financials, investigating costs in the business, right? It's not just the 5 to 7 hours of not having to hire or assign the duties of that task. It's the opportunity of them being able to be more productive on other things. So the ROI has the hard cost, the 5 to 7 hours, but consider the soft cost too, because it's very real.
Very
Yeah.
good.
The only thing I would quickly add, I know we're running out of time, is maybe contrary to what I should be saying, but if you can't quantify the ROI, you shouldn't be doing the AI project. It should
I think
never be AI for the sake of AI.
that's right.
Okay, Camille, you just said it. We're in the interest of time, if you'll bring up the last slide because it's a visual.
Oh, yes.
Um, we'd like to thank you all for attending this webinar. Um, all participants are going to receive a promotional email campaign for how you can promote AI to your customers. examples of LinkedIn post templates that you could use and AI service FAQs for your customers. If you want, you could talk to an AI expert to receive application ideas for SMBs. We can provide website copy for you to put on your website to help you promote your implementation of AI and a sales script for you, and free AI apps webinar for your customers, so that if you want us to help you with that, we'd be happy to co-host these webinars with you. You can find us at neferdata.com, and you could write to us at contact@neferdata.com. You can schedule a talk with an expert using our Calendly function, and you can find us under LinkedIn, and you can follow Camille if you would like. Again, we want to thank you for your participation in our webinar today. We do hope that you found it both educational as well as enjoyable. And with that, we will wish you all a pleasant afternoon. Thank you very much.